For my lesson, I taught a Stage 4 Year 8 PDHPE class about mental health, or more specifically, the factors that support mental health and the impact that behaviour and language can have on mental health. I'll first give you some context as to the background of the students, using Urie Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory as a framework. The lesson was taught at Oak Hill College, a private Catholic all-boys school located in the reasonably affluent suburb of Castle Hill. As such, the majority of the 30 students were 13 to 14-year-old boys from upper-middle socioeconomic status families. Whilst the class consisted of a diverse range of ethnicities, all of the students were familiar with the cultural customs of Australia, including specific conventions of language as well as mainstream educational rules and expectations such as raising your hand to ask a question. The students, being teenage boys, were likely to have come to the lesson having been influenced by some of the attitudes, many of which are grounded in prejudice, that are perpetuated through the media and society. In the prior lesson, students had learnt about the definition of mental illness and the symptoms of specific mental illnesses. It is also important to note that 2 of the students in the class suffered from mild visual impairments. My aim for the lesson was to provide students who had previously been familiarised with the concept of mental illness with information regarding some of the protective factors against mental illnesses. Particular emphasis was to be placed on the protective factor, resilience. Another important aim for this lesson was to challenge some of the negative stigmas that may be attached to mental illnesses. I wanted to encourage students to reflect on their own words and behaviours and consider how they may impact those with mental illnesses. I hope to achieve this by encouraging a sense of empathy towards the differing personality types that exist in the community and cultivating an understanding of the fact that certain types of people are more susceptible to mental illnesses than others. To construct the teaching strategies in this lesson, I drew on knowledge gained from studying Vygotsky's sociocultural theory, Skinner's operant conditioning theory, and Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Evidence of Vygotsky's sociocultural theory can be seen through the class discussions, which take place at the conclusion of the mind map activity and the Mind Matters worksheets. This construction and deepening of knowledge in the social context of a discussion is a typical social constructivist approach to learning. I prescribed the Mind Matters worksheet to this group based largely on my understanding of Piaget's cognitive development theory. The worksheet required students to induce certain personality traits and social reactions of hypothetical characters after being given a small amount of information about them. I felt that this sort of hypothetical reasoning activity would be suitable for boys aged 13 to 14 who would likely be at Piaget's concrete operational stage or formal operation stage of reasoning. Evidence of Skinner's operant conditioning can be seen in this lesson at the conclusion of the multiple choice quiz game. The students who are still standing at the conclusion of this quiz are given positive reinforcement for their good performance in the form of a small prize or chocolate. I would describe the lesson as a moderate to high success, because whilst most of the students were able to grasp the concepts being presented, a few struggled with the hypothetical nature of the Castaway worksheet. Perhaps in the future when I teach this lesson, I will try to be more explicit in my instruction in terms of linking an activity to a particular concept. Despite this, I feel that all the students, to some extent, developed a meaningful sense of empathy and awareness of mental illness from this lesson. The variation of activities, ranging from ICT, mind maps, worksheets, and class discussions, seem to engage the students and prevent any sense of monotony from setting in. There was also some low-level disruptive behaviour, but nothing unusual for an all-boys Year 8 class. To measure learning, I included the quiz game at the end of class as a form of informal summative assessment. In hindsight, perhaps a greater effort could have been made to assess learning. In the future when I teach this lesson, I may consider giving students a small homework task to assess learning.